Hello, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. I'm a big fan of KISS looms, and I am cooperating with Kelly at KISS to present to you a whole series of looming techniques especially for KISS. We're going to do this on all sorts of KISS looms, so you get to see every basic technique on your own loom. Welcome and enjoy. What you're looking at is an almost finished hat on my KISS small gauge loom. And now let's gather off the crown. This is also known as the drawstring bind off. We'll take our yarn in, which I left quite a generous amount so as not to have to stretch it as I work. I don't need nearly this much really, but I like to have a good bit of slack. Here's the last stitch that was knitted. Now what I need to do is lift up every stitch one at a time onto this yarn tail. I can pull them off as I go or not, because they'll eventually all come off. The important thing is that I thread the tail through each stitch and not miss any, because if I did miss them, they would eventually run. And that one didn't want to play nice, but I got it. There are some variations of this that look very nice. This is the very most basic version, where we've just knitted all the stitches all the way to the top of the hat, and we will gather them off. We could also have knitted the top of the hat as knit one, purl one, rib, and result in a much smoother crown, and I will do that on another video for you. I'm going to try to turn the camera and turn the work so you can see that where my needle is going in. Right there. And there. And there. Don't keep too many on the needle at once, because if you drop it, you don't want to drop a multitude of stitches. It does not matter which side you go in, just so you do go in. Seems to me it's a little bit easier to go in behind the pegs, by which I mean towards the center of the loom from the pegs. I never think about it till I'm trying to describe it to you. I just do what's easiest. But see, if I try to go in beside the peg, it's quite easy on the first stitch, but not so easy thereafter. Whereas behind the peg, you've got pretty clear access. You just have to stretch the previous row of stitches out of the way. So I'm going to work all the way around the loom like this, picking up stitches, threading them onto the yarn tail, and I'll see you when I'm done. I'm not done yet. I had a little mishap, and it could happen to you too. I dropped this stitch off of the needle, and it began to run. See, it dropped that row. Here's what you do if that happens. Get the last stitch that is a good stitch in that column onto a crochet hook and hook through the rung of the ladder that started to form, and now catch that on the needle. Now it's good as new. Alright, I've got my last few stitches threaded onto the needle, pull them onto the yarn, pull the hat off of the loom and untangle it. It always wants to tangle on me. And just start drawing the string in. That's why it's called the drawstring bind off. Here's what you get. Now tighten it as much as you possibly can. And here's the important thing. I always stitch across this a couple of times, but we can do it from the inside. And I knot it securely before weaving in the end. Because you can see, if this one strand of yarn were ever to give up, the whole hat could eventually come apart, which is not something that you want in the middle of winter for sure. So I'm stitching across that tightened O and knotting. And because it will be on the inside and then we'll bury the yarn tail, there's no reason that I can see that we shouldn't be generous with our security here. Okay, I think that's enough knots across the top. Now I'm just going to make an additional knot to tie off the yarn. And weave in the tail by going over and under stitches. And snip it. I've got a couple other yarn tails where I changed colors to weave in. I've already secured them to each other. And here's the way I prefer to do it. I could thread them on the yarn needle and that would be just fine. But I like to use my latch tool, or you could use a crochet hook, to go over and under stitches. Pull these through and snip them. Now, here's the top of our hat. On this hat I didn't make any kind of finished lower edge. I'm just letting it roll. I might also take some of the same red I finished up with and crochet around the bottom. But this is the very most basic kind of hats. They're wonderful when you need a hat in a hurry. And that crown is perfectly warm and presentable.